Hey, hello everyone, and welcome back to another paranormal custom magic set stream. Um, Today we are working on. We're going to take a look at some designs that Cyber5 left for us in the Discord. So those are for a potential cycle of legendary creatures at rare, and then we'll probably look a little bit over the case files, at least the ones that I have determined should definitely be in the set. We had a lot of designs, and most of them were just kind of like they're okay cards. I just don't know if they deserve a spot in the case files. But we did have a few that I really felt good about, so we can build from there. Okay, so sorry that I am starting a little bit late. My family dinner ran a little long. Okay, but while we are waiting for people to show up, because I don't want to just like be going over Cyber5's designs if they're not even here. Hold on. There we go. I guess we could go over the case file stuff that I did keep. Though I guess I'll just need to reiterate that once people do show up anyway. Let's see. Okay, well, looks like Cyber5 at least is in chat already, so I'm going to just head on over there and start looking at stuff. So for the set file, let's just pull up the rares and not the mythics. Go down to the gold area. And then we can put this into here so that it can be seen on stream. Excellent. So, this is Cyber5's cycle of legendary creatures. Gold cards at rare. Hello, Mars. How are you doing today? Let's see, we got Nulwu Infiltration Unit. So it is a one white blue for a 3/1 legendary artifact creature. Gnome. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. And other creatures you control can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Interesting. So it just makes all of your creatures unblockable except by small stuff. And of course, it dies pretty easily if the opponent does have small stuff, so that sort of balances it out a little bit, because this is a pretty powerful effect. Oh, and yeah, it gets by undercovers. No, it doesn't get by undercovers. It can be killed with small creatures, undercovers, or tokens. Okay. You think part of your wiring is dead? Oh no. Are you a robot like Nulwu? I guess this would be the O1. Okay. Nah, but my washer and carport outlets seem to be not live. Unfortunate. All right, so you're taking a break and came here. Well, I'm glad that I can be the place where you come on break. Or when you're taking a break, rather. All right. Oh, 9. If we are making a full 10 card cycle of these. Also, when you said the name of the card out loud, too, I can't help but imagine the flavor text. Yes. I heard it as well. Maybe it's Nulwu? Or we could just change the name whatsoever, or completely, or something like that. So there's just, yeah, no resemblance. I just got it from a name generator, so I wasn't thinking of it that much. Fair enough. Legendary names are hard. So, I guess my thinking on this card is it's kind of cool. It's got a very powerful ability, which is just all of your creatures can't be blocked by big stuff. But it does die easily. So it's not a huge problem. In Constructed, there's many ways to play around this. Most easily, you just kill it. In Limited, it may be a bit harder to kill, but it has 1 toughness. It's both an artifact and a creature, so the opponent should have something laying around that can kill it. So it's very vulnerable. I think it's fine. So I think that definitely balances out the ability. So then I guess the main thing is this what this archetype needs? I mean, I'd argue giving creatures flying is probably stronger. Yeah, that's a good point. Just compare it to giving all creatures you control flying. Which I can't think of a card that does that. I'm sure it exists. Creatures you control have flying. Archetype of Imagination. It was 6 mana. This is 3. Here we go. Levitation, 4 mana. But levitation is also harder to remove. So, I mean, there's the upside that this comes on a creature itself, but also the downside that makes it easier to kill. So I think power-wise, this is a perfectly fine card. It was made with a tempo-styled game plan in mind. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, so basically, is this what white-blue needs? Our signpost rares do not have to align exactly with what the color pair is doing. But white-blue is tempo, so it does just make it so that your like early game creatures, which is what tempo wants to make sure it has, and make sure that they don't just get stonewalled by massive stuff later. So that's kind of cool. It does work with it. So, I mean, I think this is a pretty sweet design. All right. And then the blue-black one. Is, and also consider the mere concept of a surveillance gnome being a fun concept. That is kind of funny. I'm going to be honest with you. In D&D and in Magic, I'm really not sure what a gnome is. I know there's bottle gnomes. And those are actual artifact creatures. Yeah, here's a garden gnome type gnome. It is an actual artifact with the garden gnome hat. I guess this doesn't quite count because it's the D&D version. I did say gnomes in non-D&D settings are all artifacts. It looks like you are correct in that assessment. Except for a card from Legends, which probably doesn't count. Because Legends is based on the creator's personal D&D set, or like a campaign. So like all those legendary creatures that they have, Gwendolyn de Cersei and whatnot, these were characters in their actual D&D game. So this doesn't count either. So he's probably just a little robotic helper built by the organization. Probably one highly marketable. Got it. Okay. Or she, yeah. Yeah, so then in D&D, it's just like... What? Just like halflings with pointy ears? I don't know. I've never quite understood the difference. But, yes. It seems to work just fine in Magic. Just a, like, little artifacty dude. All right. Then we have one. Our black one is Rokeless, Classified Observer. Day 27. They still haven't realized I'm not a garden gnome yet. That is cute. I mean, that also verifies the existence of garden gnomes in this world. Okay, and then Rokeless is a 2/2 for blue-black. And it says, when it enters the battlefield, you get a research counter, and whenever it deals damage, combat damage to a player, choose any number of differently named counters on each player. Give those players another counter of those kinds. Interesting. Okay, so in set, the only thing that this works with is research. True, but I mean, lawn flamingos exist too, and that doesn't mean flamingos don't exist. I was just saying, it's the humorous aspect of, it's kind of funny that we're confirming that garden gnomes do exist on our plane. I actually have to leave for one moment. I'll be right back. Okay, apologies. I am back. Okay, so what I was saying was, yeah, currently in set, the only type of counter on a player that we have is research counters. So obviously this combos with itself, but giving it the ability to like proliferate any type of counter does make it more versatile in larger formats like Commander, where you might be trying to infect your opponent to death, and this can help you proliferate that poison. All right. I suppose if you want to make this effect more general too, you could make it like the wording of animation module. Let me take a look at the wording of animation module. Okay. Choose a counter on target permanent or player. Give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. Yeah, so you could proliferate anything, and that would include +1 counters on creatures that happen to have those. I know we have at least one -1 counter in the case files. Well, I know we also have a card in the case files, potentially, that cares about having a bunch of different types of counters. But it only does 1 counter at a time instead of multiple. Right. Whereas this one, yeah, is a bit different. Because it can... Yeah, targets... Well, it chooses any number of different counters on each player. Does it need to say differently named? So I guess with differently named, it means that you couldn't choose your own experience and somebody else's experience counter to proliferate, or multiple players poison. Oh, I guess that's the big thing, is you couldn't poison multiple people at the same time. Okay, so one note that I do have is this card is similar to this card in that it's basically whenever it hits a player, you get a research. In Limited, that is also what this card is doing. When you hit a player, you get a research. Well, it would be like if someone has 5 poison counters, you wouldn't be able to give them 5 more as a result. Oh, no, I don't think... I see what you're saying. You wouldn't be able to proliferate all of the different counters, all of the different counters of the same type on them. So the 5, proliferating each one of them would give you another 5. I don't think that's how it works, but I could be wrong. I guess there aren't that many of these effects in the game. So I would have to choose. I would have to find a precedent where the card chooses multiple counters and proliferates them. What's the wording on proliferate? I believe the old wording was... choose any number of permanents and or players with counters on them, and give each another counter of a kind already there. Okay, it hasn't really changed that much. Well, okay. So it enters, you get research. That's what blue-black wants you to do. And then basically when you hit the opponent, you get research, which is also kind of what blue-black wants you to do. It wants you to get a bunch of them over time. So it does kind of work. It's a little similar to our uncommon signpost, but it does have the ability to... It does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does kind of work. It's a little similar to our uncommon signpost, but it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like, proliferate. So it does have the ability to, like proliferate more types of things. So I guess what proliferate commanders are there? Obviously, Atrax is one of the most popular ones ever. Oops. Rolusk and Yawgmoth. So this is a new color combination. Obviously, you could do just blue-black Atraxa, but it could also be something like whenever you get a counter, draw a card and lose 1 life. That's kind of cool. Then you would want to give yourself poison counters too. You lose 1 life. So maybe like a self-infect strategy with it. Yeah? I wonder if one of the case files we could have a card that infects, a player of your choice. And you could combo that with this to infect yourself. Okay, I mean, just this seems very powerful, though, with blue-black being research. Now, by itself, this is 2/2 for 2, ETB, you get a research, draw a card, lose a life. That actually bears some resemblance to one of our commons. 1/1 for 2, when it dies, you lose 1 life, draw a card, get research. Obviously, rare is allowed to be better. But we might want to make this a little more expensive. Or, I mean, we could make it smaller. A 1/1. Or like a 2/2 for 3. Maybe a 2/1 could be good. For 2? Or for 3? At 2. Okay. This card's very good, even if you're not using research. 2/1 for 2. ETB, you draw a card. That said, I don't know that it's broken. It's still less, it's very good, but still less first pickable because it's gold. So it seems like it could be pretty cool. I'm on board. I think you... Yeah, I just didn't type the wizard on here for some reason, so let's get that on. What about the once per turn clause? Seems reasonable. This does seem like abuse of, like a ability that you could abuse with an infinite combo. Something that lets you draw a card and lose life. I guess the life loss sort of puts a limiter on how many cards you can draw with it, but still. Sure, this seems reasonable, right? Pretty sweet. Okay, and then there's the... I like it being a small commander you can get out early, too. That's a good point. There's, yeah, small commanders do not get enough love. Also, yeah, because it's a 2-drop, you could play it, get your research, and then whenever it dies, next time you can pay 4 to get the research, and you can afford to pay 6 to get a research. And so, it is a good way of securing you'll have a bunch of resource over the course of the game. I have a Finn the Fangbearer deck, and that is a really fun commander, especially because you always play it on turn 2, and if it dies, okay, you play it on turn 4. So I might try and start playing a couple more like really small commanders, because it's just kind of fun to always be able to have it in play. All right. Or in competitive, maybe too much love. Yeah. I don't know much about competitive EDH. I don't know. I don't see the point in trying to win turn 1 or turn 2. I don't know. I have more fun just playing a long game. I wish Red-White had more cheap commanders rather than finishers or payoffs. It's a good question. Legendary creature. Color equals red. Commander equals Red-White. And then sort by mana value. So the cheap ones are, like Akiri and Cole. Rayav. So a lot of, like, artifacty ones. Ooh, I really loved these guys. Maybe I should build a deck around them. I don't know if it's any good, but I guess Feather is the cheapest popular one. Not that you can see Feather. There she is. Okay, so yeah, Kuljin is interesting. So it's really expensive for a 3/2 Death Touch. So you're really relying on this ability to get there. Now, don't get me wrong, like a Death Touch creature is pretty good, being able to trade with anything. But you can often find them at 1 mana, so. And as it doesn't really usually matter how much power it has. How much toughness it has can be quite relevant. That said, 3 power is nice because you can swing in with this. You can use it to get some damage in, but you're definitely relying on this ability to make it worth the mana value. So, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it has an odd mana value, it costs 2 less to cast this turn. Oops. Yeah, red-white may not be the most popular color combination in Commander. Yeah, I have a Quintorius deck because I was like, I just have to build around the cards leaving your graveyard. And that deck is a lot of fun. But, yeah. Okay, so I really like caring about whether whether something has an odd mana value. That's such a weird thing that generally, there's only been a couple of cards that do it. So I like that. I do think that if this card goes in the set, we definitely need to take a look at all of our, like, black-red cards that could be going into this deck and making sure that we have some decent options at 1 mana, at 3 mana, at 5 mana. Those are the main ones. Actually, I guess 1 doesn't do it because you can't make it cost less than 1 because it's usually going to have a colored mana symbol. So really, this is just going to apply to like 3 mana, 5 mana, and maybe 7 mana spells. Card notes, unique effect. Definitely works with the graveyard theme. Black is allowed to get back creatures. Red is allowed to get back instants or sorceries. I know when I was envisioning this character too, I know I was thinking about them being somewhat Hellboy-like in terms of looks. Hellboy aesthetic. Oh, yeah. I know this one. Sweet. Let's just sit on Feather for a while. Or I could zoom in. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Yeah, this seems pretty sweet. So I like this. It cares about its own thing. You can build around it in Commander, but it can also do like good stuff in the set. Main thing that also good for Obosh. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you could run this in Obosh, or you could run Obosh as a companion in Commander. With this as your commander. Main thing is this is very similar to our Unstable Anomaly. Well, not very similar. It has the ability to return instants and sorceries from the graveyard to hand. They're probably different enough that it's okay, but they're just two expensive rares in red that have a similar ability. So, vaguely similar to RR01. Should red-black get drawing an extra card each turn? Or should this exile and you can cast a copy this turn? It's an interesting question. You have to set up your graveyard to do it. To some extent, you do. You do only need one instant or sorcery in your graveyard, and then you're good to go. Because as long as you keep casting it, it's going to go back to your graveyard, and you can keep looping it. So you don't have to necessarily stock up your graveyard that much. I mean, you could just use... One of the best things you can use is just a removal spell, which you'll want to play anyhow. So that's a fair question, Mirrodin. Should there be some kind of restriction on this? It's also an upkeep trigger too, so it can be removed before it triggers. That is another good point. It is a 3/2 for 5 mana. So, very inefficient if it gets removed. So, I know black has like Phyrexian Arena, which gives it a card draw every turn. However, that's not a recent card. Are there recent examples of constant black card draw? I mean, does Villas count? I mean, he's very expensive. It's not once per turn, it's as many times as you feel like per turn, really. Red has Outpost Siege 2. Yes, that's a good example. Yep. That is until end of turn, because that is the kind of card draw that red usually gets. We could say at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile target creature, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard to your from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If it has an odd mana value, it costs 2 less to cast this turn. So that would only give it back to you for this one turn. if we wanted to restrict it a little bit. I think that may be similar to one of my other designs, though. Oh, one that we haven't gotten to yet. Gotcha. Could restrict the card advantage ability, or just say dies to removal. Cool. All right, well, let's then move on for now, and then when we get to that other design, we can take a look and we can tweak this one or the other one, or, you know, whatever needs to be done. Okay, so then the next one is Scarclax, Urban Monarch. 4 red, green. Legendary creature, dinosaur ape. Attacks each turn if able. You may assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. And at the start of your second main phase, if each creature you control attacked this turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. I will say this next one can be edited however you want. It's not the most concise, but I just like the idea of a raid commander that rewards you for flunging. Yeah, I actually designed a card once that gave you a bonus if you attacked with every single one of your creatures, and I think that's pretty sweet. I also like how you worded this ability, because one thing I found with that card is if you have it trigger at the end step, this means that you're not allowed to play any non-hasty creatures. Ever, if you want to get this effect, because they can't attack the turn they come in. So, yes, this triggers at the start of your second main phase, giving you that ability, and then during your second main phase, you can play new creatures, and they can attack next turn. So, it's a 7/6 for 6. Must attack. Has, what, Super Trample? Is that what it's called? And then, yeah, at the start of your second main phase, if each creature you control attacked this turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. And also, while they don't do must attack if able that much, it is a way to essentially force the player into having a raid trigger. Yeah, I agree. I think it is fine here. Another, one of the reasons why they stopped using must attack is because they would put it on these 2/2 for 2 creatures, and then they would just run into 2/3s and die. And the thing about this 7/6 is it's not likely to just run into traffic and die. At least if it dies in combat, it's probably taking something with it. That said, if it can assign combat damage as though it weren't blocked, man, that's going to kill him in 3 turns flat if they don't find some way to get rid of it. Maybe fewer, if it's pumping itself. Could we just remove that? Attacks each turn if able, and then 2 +1 counters on each creature you control. Suicidal Bears are not that fun. No, Valley Dasher, not a great card. I mean, if you do that, then it's just an 0/6 that they can swarm creatures with. Yeah, I know what you're saying. If you do assign its combat damage as though it's not blocked, yes, then it's a 0/6. They only need a couple or 3 creatures to kill it. So you raise an interesting point. But if you are like ahead on board, this could potentially be very scary. But I don't know. It is a 6-drop, so in limited, it's a lot of mana. You can tend to have those be pretty powerful cards. Hello, Tessa. How are you doing? Plus, it's a Gruul commander. They do tend to be big and scary. Oops. Well, we can try it as is. I think the main part of this ability is this. Or the main part of this card is this ability. Some effect for attacking with every creature you have. What we could do... I'm not streaming tonight though, so maybe I chill here with you. Oh no, did you have to cancel the stream? What if this gave you more creatures to attack with? If you think of any other executions of this, you can post them up anywhere, really. Tap gives Scarclax a cool crown. Scarclax has a cool crown. Look at that. Just going across the top there. I don't know, maybe this is crazy. I mean, I'm giving even more super trample, but... Oh, actually, in this case, this would be like a beast, so that it would still have the super trample. So that's a potential iteration. Also, I do like the creature type too. Me, do you want it to be more like Godzilla or Kong? More. Also me, yes. We just got a Godzilla versus Kong set, and you just want to... By just, I mean it was like, a year and a half ago or whatever, but... Actually, that might still be right. Yeah. I do kind of like the idea of it spitting out creatures, and then that's even more creatures that you have to attack with. Could also just be normal trample if you want to save space. Oh, that's a good point. It does save a lot of space. I mean, I like super trample, but until they keyword it, it does take up a lot of room. I'm not sure they will because they don't use it very often, but... If each creature you control attacked this turn. Probably put it above the attack text too. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Maybe trample and haste too. Okay, if we give it haste, then it's going to be giving you a 4/4 immediately, assuming it survives combat. Actually, no, haste can share a line. It does go at the end. Double strike, also flash, fire breathing. Okay. But so it works with its ability if you cast it on the first main. Yeah. I hear that. We might want to make it a little bit more expensive then, though. I mean, I get that it can just die to 6 power worth of blockers. But it does seem quite good. Oh, and we should give it first strike to pair well with that double strike. Ooh. I see you are a person of culture. Well, I mean, these abilities do work. Red gets trample, green gets haste. So I see no problems here. Okay, well, it seems like a reasonable design. We could definitely tweak numbers or abilities later, if we would prefer. Would you also like some small fries to go with your large fries? Yeah, you can upgrade it for just 99 cents more. And then they say, yeah, give me the small fries to go with the large fries. And then they go, would you like to make that a large fries to go with your large fries? Okay, so next up we have Cornelius Ward, Domestic Overseer, who's a 4/4 Vigilance for 4 with. This creature isn't legendary if it's a token. But this creature isn't a token? Also, at the beginning of your end step, target token you control becomes a copy of card name, legend name. Blue-green, create a 4/4 green-red dinosaur ape token with trample and haste. I'm confused. Why does it cost blue and green to create a red and green creature? Don't worry. Okay, you know what? I won't worry about it. You seem like you have this all figured out. And I trust you. Okay. So, blue pip is just a red pip in a mask. Oh, it's undercover. I got it. I love the design, but I'm very confused on the flavor. Yeah, so between the horror and the fact that other tokens are becoming copies of him, I'm guessing it's someone who seems like a perfectly normal creature, and yet you start seeing him everywhere. And then, oh no, everyone's face is changing to become his. That's the flavor that I'm getting. I'm not sure if I'm understanding that from the domestic overseer part of the name. I love that flavor, Cyber 5. That is a great idea. Like, the flavor here is awesome. The face giver. He's supposed to be like the mayor of the town where this is all happening, like he's in control of everything. Okay, gotcha. Hence the domestic overseer. No. I'm the mayor. I'm the Duke. I would like to challenge that you are the Duke, Tessa. So, it's a 4/4 vigilance for 4. That's a good card, but, you know, nothing broken and limited. At the beginning of your end step, you don't get to choose. Target token you control becomes a copy of Cornelius Ward. Sorry, I was in fact the Duke. You die now. Well, I lose one of my cards, but I still have one left. Okay, so you can turn your, like, 1/1 construct token. You can make it a May if you wish. I do kind of like the idea that you don't get to choose. Oh, I know what card I was thinking of that this reminds me of. This one is also not a May. This card is ridiculous. I know I talked about it last week, how good it was, so I don't need to rave about it again, but Cornelius Ward does kind of remind me of this card because it basically turns all of your creatures into copies of itself, like this. This one is obviously going to be more powerful overall because it's 6/6 flyers, which are much harder to get rid of than 4/4 vigilance creatures. Also, this one only turns tokens you control into copies of it. So it has the downside of not turning your other small creatures into copies of Cornelius. However, it can turn your artifact tokens, your clues or weapons, into 4/4 vigilance creatures, which could be quite the steep upgrade. And since you're creating a copy of it, you're also creating a copy of this ability. So once it's out of the bag, it's really hard to put back in. I guess the metaphor is the genie out of a bottle. So you can't put it back in, but that's not the mayor. That's just a sword with a wing. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, I think this feels pretty cool. I don't know. Well, okay. So I guess we do want all of the legendary creatures in the set. It makes sense if most of them have some role in this story. I could actually see this being a case file. We did want gold rares in the case files that give us, like, alternate things to do, like alternate types of payoffs, and this focuses on tokens. It does some weird shenanigans. I mean, not really. Does a giant slug become part of the story in Innistrad? I said not all, but most. I don't know all of the story for Crimson Vow yet, but I know the story for Midnight Hunt, so let's take a look. Adeline is one of the group that goes to find the key, as is Arlen. They encounter Dennick along the way, who helps them find the key. Florian's not in the story, so that's one. Gisa's not in the story. Jadar's not in the story. Jaren's not in the story. Catilda is the one who puts them on the quest. Lear's not in the story, nor is Lisa, nor is Ludwig. So I guess you're right. The majority, at least in Midnight Hunt, are not in this story. Because that's stacking up pretty quick. Plus, I know Jaren is dead by the time the story goes on. I was saying it would be cool if we could actually give them roles, things to do. I'm not saying that they all have to tie in. I mean, yeah, then I guess we could remove his status as mayor, right? And give his title something more in theme with his flavor. It's a little bit long. Cornelius Ward the First. That's a pretty good title. Okay, Tessa gets it. I'm not alone. Now we need rules text to change the names of the other tokens. No, I'm the first. So yeah, in pop culture, the main analog I can think of is like Agent Smith from The Matrix, where he just turns all of the people in the Matrix into copies of himself. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Aligns with green white, but cares about something a little different. I like. I guess it's also kind of similar to the green-blue card from Modern Horizons 2 that turns your tokens into 4/4s. Combine Chrysalis. But this one does cost more to get started. Well, I guess, yeah, Combine Chrysalis costs 2 to play and then 4 to make your first copy. It is an uncommon versus like a legendary creature, so there's definitely room for some change in power level. We could make it smaller if we feel that it's too powerful. This one becomes exponential as time goes on. Yes, up to the limit of the number of tokens that you have. Because you won't be able to, probably, you won't be able to make an exponential number of tokens every turn. This also works with our case files blue-black rare that lets you pick a creature name. And those gives all of those creatures tap target player mills 3 cards. So that's kind of fun. Okay, well, yeah, I think this is maybe fine as is. Could shrink a little if OP. And also, flavor of being a random dude might work better. But it still works as is. So pretty cool design. Okay, next up, we have our white-black creature. Let me get that ready to go. Here we are. Bevrin, Corrupt Enforcer. He's a dirty cop. Legendary creature. Human Advisor. So, has exploits. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And when dude exploits a creature, each opponent exiles a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. Oh, dang. I believe I've actually posted this on the Discord before too, but I believe you ignored it on the stream where you went on the tangent of making red-white spell slingers. Yeah, I believe I ignored it then because we were just talking about red-white in general. And yeah, that was, I think that may have been before I actually had that like to-do list. So I didn't like have an easy way to get back to it later. But okay, this is a, let me see. Sorry, I scrolled up too far. Now I can't find it. Okay. Power toughness on this guy is 2-4. Also, I did change it a bit, but I think mtg.design glitched, so it didn't show it. Okay, so you've changed it from what I have written down here. I did think about making the death trigger into each player losing 1 and you surveilling 1. I see. So, yeah, he has 2 abilities that trigger upon creatures dying. 1 whenever any creature you control dies, and 1 whenever he exploits a creature. Is there a way that we could combine it? We could just do sort of like the Skull Scab did, and just have it be whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, you get an effect. To each player losing 1. Okay, so so you suggested each player loses 1 life, and you can have it be whichever you want more, but I don't think they need to be the same effect. Oh, you meant each opponent still. Okay. Okay, so anytime another one of your creatures dies, each opponent loses 1, and you surveil 1. So instead of gaining 1 that you would normally gain off of a blood artist effect like this, you surveil, which is kind of cool. I like that. And then specifically, when he exploits a creature, he, she, they, whatever, each opponent exiles a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. So like an edict, but where they have to actually get rid of something good. Yeah, seems all right. It's... I don't know. It could make a fine commander. It's not something that speaks to me to build around as a commander, but it is kind of cool that, you know, you can have like a blood artisty type effect on a commander. And it does give you some like card filtering instead of just their normal life gain. So, seems okay. Obviously works well with white-black exploits. I mean, simply having a Blood Artist on command is something a lot of people would probably want. I mean, you're not wrong. Card's good. Yep. I'm just trying to make sure, like, having two different, like, creatures dying triggers is not... They do two different things. I don't know. I just want to make sure that it's focused enough. Do we feel like it's okay that this is doing a couple different things instead of one more focused one? I think it's fine. They're differentiated enough. Yeah, it's probably fine. All right. In that case, we can move on to... Let's see. Blue-red would be next. This one is RZ07. Renee, Scrappy Reporter. Excellent. We need someone on the scene. 1 blue-red, 4A. Legendary creature, human rogue, because they follow their own rules. Tap to surveil 1. Okay, that's a good start. And whenever 1 or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, you may exile 1 of them. Until end of turn, you may cast that card. So I assume this is the one that you were talking about when you said that my changes to Kal'jin might have been too similar to one of your other designs. Yeah, so it's also exiling cards from your graveyard and then letting you cast it just for that turn. So kind of like impulse draw from your graveyard. So she's like a big scryfish, or surveil fish, I guess. And then, yeah, basically lets you impulse draw anytime you mill, but more in a self-mill direction too. Yeah. Yeah, because if you surveil multiple times in a turn, that's you could be drawing several cards. Although I noticed that you may cast that card. So if you surveil a land into your graveyard, you're not going to get to play it, since you do not cast land. So I assume that was an intentional choice. I mean, 1/4 for 3 with Surveil 1 is in and of itself a card I would play. Not really, but you can make it however you want, really. Okay. That would have a period. I'd play your card. Ah! So yeah, like I was saying, if with just the surveil ability, it's a card I would play. But this ability, letting you then effectively like draw a card every turn, that really kicks it up a notch. Because you can just, I guess it's not looting. You don't get to put a card from your hand into the discard, but you can look at your top one card and be like, oh, do I want to play this turn? If so, I can effectively draw it just to play it. Making it play instead of cast might be fine since you can still play only one land anyway. So if you're surveilling from multiple sources in a single turn, you are going to be churning through your deck and just drawing a boatload of value. We could restrict this to once per turn, but I guess it's a bit silly then if she gives you the once per turn. Granted, blue-red draws a lot anyway. That is true. They do what they want. So she's trying to get the inside scoop, right? We could try and flavor that a little bit with like, this would be me like redesigning the card. So flash, or maybe you can cast her as though as though it had flash if an opponent cast an instant or sorcery this turn. What would this have to cost to be surveilled to? Either for the casting cost or activated cost. I think it's an interesting decision to decide to put the better card on top or your graveyard. I would probably give the activated ability a cost at that point, Mirrodin. Okay, so I'm just starting from scratch here. This is not to say that the other card doesn't have merit. This is just an idea that I came up with based on your reporter idea. Basically, whenever an event happens, an instant or sorcery, and it has to be one that an opponent casts so that you can't be making it happen. Basically, an event happens, boom, she's first on the scene. She gets flash. She comes out. Wow, even Twitch is trying to sabotage me today. Mobile it is then. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mars, have you been trying to comment and I just haven't been seeing it? Because it has been a while since I saw you say anything. Okay, then of course, once it is out, I would need it to have, we would want it to have something that maybe interacts with the instant or sorcery. That's just remaking Teferi. Or Venser. Yeah. I feel like this design should be more on a normal creature than a legendary. Could be. I don't think it's... I mean, I guess, yeah, having part of the ability to cast it contingent on what your opponents are doing. That's not as interesting on a commander, but I don't know. I don't feel like it's a functional design yet. Now, I had to chuck some food from the non-functional fridge. Apologies. It sounds like a poor situation. I have been there. Just seems like a lot of words for an effect that doesn't do much for you. Well, it doesn't do much yet. I will say this is obviously not the main function of the card. I think that if I could come up with a good ability to combo with it, that could be very interesting depending on whether you can cast this at instant speed or not. It could be fun, but you had to surveil the fridge and choose which cards to leave on top and which ones to put into the graveyard. Like a loot tree. Perhaps. Dude just copies a spell, right? Yeah, an instant or sorcery you control. Potentially. Yeah, sorcery speed, loot tree would be useless. So yeah, we need something that like still works at sorcery speed, but gets more interesting at instant speed. But I can potentially try and come up with a design for this on my own time, if that's not something people are interested in doing now, because this version that you have put forth does work all right. Although Mirrodin was talking about making this Surveil 2, so that you actually have a choice between cards. Do you want to put something in your graveyard so that you can play it this turn? Do you want to put it back on top just so that you have a next turn? But being able to Surveil 2 every turn and then pseudo draw cards is a lot of advantage. So yeah, I would definitely make it cost at least 1. Okay, well, let's just leave it there for now, and move on to the next card on the list, which is the black-green one. I thought Cornelius Ward was the everyman. So it's a legendary creature, shapeshifter horror for 1 green-black. It's a 2/2 with whenever a creature with no abilities you control deals combat damage to another creature, destroy that creature at end of combat. Whenever card name attacks, exile target card from your graveyard face down, and it has undercover. Okay, so the idea behind this guy is that it works well with undercover. So it's a 2/2 for 3 on, well, either the front or the back face. So it's just a question of whether you want more bodies overall or if you want his abilities first. So basically it's a lord for all of your vanilla creatures, which is generally bad. But if you have ways to work with it, which we do in this set, it can be quite good. So we have token creatures that have no abilities. So those are our like 1/1 constructs. And then we also have Undercover, which is an ability that makes our cards into 2/2 colorless creatures with no abilities. Undercover is also useful if you already have him out. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Because if he's undercover, he's not affected by the legend rule. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, so if you had multiple copies, you could play one face up, one face down, and then you are still getting benefit out of both of your copies of this legendary creature. I see. Okay. So, yeah, he's a lord that basically gives all of your creatures with no abilities death touch. But you can't actually give them death touch because then they have an ability and then they no longer gain death touch. But then they don't have an ability, so they gain death touch. So it's just a weird situation that doesn't work, which is part of why like creatures without abilities theme is so difficult to do. So happy Muraganda noises. Yep. So cool. I like the idea of the black-green legend caring about creatures with no abilities. Because that's like a cool thing that a legendary creature could care about. That works generally with a lot of things, and then specifically in our set, it works with a couple of things that we have. So then you also have whenever Glish attacks, exile target card from your graveyard face down. So that would allow you to take an undercover creature card from your graveyard, exile it face down, and then boom, you're allowed to cast it for its front side again. Just as you would with any other undercover creature that was exiled face down. Okay, so seems cool. Works very well with undercover in the set. The only problem that I have with it so far, there we go. The only problem that I have with it is that it has a similar ability to our green-black mythic, wherever that is at, Fragile, which is -XX. So basically, for -2, you could return 1 target card from your graveyard to the battlefield face down. It's not exactly the same. It is allowing you to basically reanimate your undercover creatures, although you can do it with anything. So, to be fair, they seem different enough, really. They are definitely different. They're both lords for undercover. Is Fragile a lord? I guess lord is a strong word. They are both payoffs for undercover. Sorry, I will speak more precisely. However, I will take a moment to go get some more water. I do like the prospect of doing an Abzan build with Grishel because the constructs would like it, right? I totally botched that sentence. All good. Yes, constructs would love it. Because white is the main color for making the construct tokens, so you're basically giving them all death touch, which getting a bunch of like 1/1 death touchers at a cheap cost seems pretty sweet. It is interesting that with this you are required to exile target card from your graveyard face down. So even if you don't have something undercover, you're going to be exiling something face down, which is a weird thing. Because there's not much in the game that does that. But still probably fine. I don't know. What do you think about this, Mars? You said you like the idea of doing this in Abzan, so it seems like you're excited about this part of the ability. Do you have any other ideas for the rest of the card? Do you think it's good as is? Any stats or like mana value adjustment? I'm going to just put up to 1 on there so that you don't have to exile something if you don't want to, because generally you're only going to want to hit things with undercover. Okay, what if you do have multiples of these? How likely is it that you can just chain them together indefinitely? You do have to have them face up and then attack in order to do that, so it's probably not ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, on this side, it's a 2/2 for 3 that has to attack in order to get this ability, so that's probably not too strong. So, probably seems fine as is. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the list, because we already had red, white, and green, blue legendary rares. So, with that, what do y'all think about doing a legendary creature cycle? Do we like it? Because we didn't originally budget for gold, like a 10-card gold cycle, but we do have the space for that. So if that's something that we like, these designs, we can try to find some space for them. I know to mention too, I didn't physically make a redesign for Granch, but I was pondering the idea of maybe giving it the mirror entity effect to some regard. So like you can pump in some amount of mana to make all of your mutants that large until end of turn. Would help with our memory issue. Okay. Cool. Well, I know we got tied up on that a lot last time, so we don't have to spend that much time on it here. Personally, I think I like the idea of having a 10-card gold cycle. Gives you some, I mean, people love legendary creatures. It gives you some build-arounds that we can make work with our themes, but not necessarily have to exactly fit our themes. They can sort of do their own thing. That's when I think legendary creatures are at their most interesting, is when they're doing their own thing. So, for example, I don't think Odric is a very powerful card in Crimson Vow, but I do like that he's doing his own thing, and he's not just copying like other legends. So I do like the idea of this 10-card gold cycle. It doesn't have to be legends, but it can be. On that note, we had previously decided that we were going to have a 10-card gold cycle of like alternate win conditions or like alternate build-arounds in the case files. So if we do 10-card cycle of gold rares, legendary creatures, in the main set, do we want to do a 10-card cycle of like alternate build-arounds in the case files as well? Gold cards. I don't think I said that. There's a lot of words I had to keep straight there. I don't see why not. They're both essentially different sets. I don't view them that way. I don't think that they are different sets. Because the one only appears in packs of the other. So I do still want them to be very much intertwined. And I do want to make sure that they work well together. I need to read Odric's web lore article. I need to know what's going on because I hope he goes full on Blade. Yeah, I haven't read the Crimson Vow story yet, but I need to do that. They're probably all out by now. Seemed like they were coming out pretty fast. So, well, what I mean is that adding more golds in the case file doesn't really change the numbers of the actual set. It does to some extent, because the case file is going to be 1/14th of the packs for this set. 1 out of every 14 cards you see is going to be a case file card. So if, say, all of those were gold, then that would be increasing the the amount of gold that you see in a pack from generally 0 to always 1, sometimes more. So I get what you're saying, but I do think it is like it is a significant amount. That's not to say that amount is bad. I think we can do 10 of our 63 cards being gold, but it does change the ASFAN of gold in the set. Honestly, I think we should just see if we actually have any designs for multicolor cards in the case files before we actually decide if we want them in. Fair enough. I think, though, you can design anything, Even if we don't have any good designs offhand, that doesn't mean, like, if we want them, we can come up with good designs. We just need to take enough time to do so. So, I'm personally on board for doing it. I think in that case, we would want to stray away from legends, which I think a lot of the case files may not be legendary anyway, which is kind of interesting because a lot of these monsters may actually feel like they're singular, but... Okay, so we'll still plan to do them, but maybe focus less on legendary creatures. Okay, works for me. Now in that case, we're doing legendary creatures in the main set. 10-card gold cycle, that means that we need to remove 2 rares from each color. Which I think each color does have a couple of rare slots that are open to be removed. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, this one's blank. Yes, we can delete that one and then just like rename this to be 4, this to be 8. Except then we do still need to cut 1. Okay, blue has several open slots. Just make this one 5, this one 6. Right, there should be 7. Oh, there is. Okay. Delete a couple of empty ones there. Red has that one and that one. We can always change the numbers later as we need. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to make too many designs. I just want the design to come naturally and not have them just be forced into the set. This can become 7. Okay, so I've deleted 10 rares from the 10 rare slots from the set to make room for all these. That does mean that we'll have room for probably more commons probably more rares at colorless. Hold on, this is the wrong one. There we go. Because with 7 of each monocolor, that's 7 times 5 is 35. 45, including the 10 gold ones, which means that we have 8 slots for colorless. Actually, we could potentially just remove, we could only remove 1 from each color, and then we would still have room for 3 slots at colorless, which would be artifacts and lands. Well, we can always add those back in if we need to. We did have 2 completely blank card slots for rare in each color, so not a big deal. Plus, I know the rares aren't always color balanced too. 1 or 2 might get 1 more than the others at times. Yeah, I think it happens very occasionally. They do it with mythics more often. But, yeah, if we need to, we can color imbalance the rares. Yeah. Probably try not to, but not a big deal if it does happen. I think it's semi-common at times, so you can look it up to make sure. Okay. I guess we start with Vow. Rarity, rare. Sorted by set and number. Let's bring this to the forefront. So 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, 10, 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, and then 1 of each of the gold ones. Okay, so black gets 1 additional one in Crimson Vow. Seven, 8. Although I guess I don't know if they count these guys. But I guess blue and white both have them, and they have different numbers. So 7, 8, 8, 7, 7. Okay, looks like Midnight Hunt is different. I think Ravnica 3.0's Planeswalkers were counted for the guild cycles. Yes, they very much were, because they were the guild leader. Because every Ravnica set, gets a mythic guild leader. And this time they replaced 5 of those with Planeswalkers. Guess Before Midnight Hunt was AFR. We had 368, 368, 367. Apparently it is a lot more common to have varying numbers of rares now. Back when I started designing, it happened, but not very commonly. But it does seem to have happened in the past few sets, so. What would be before that? Strixhaven? And Mythics, of course, don't really care. Yeah, yeah. I was always so confused. Back in Eldritch Moon, when they made Tamio Bant colors, and people were like, why is she green and white in addition to her blue? She's mostly just blue, right? The answer we got was, we had to do it. Planeswalkers had to be color balanced. And I was like, you've never cared about that before. Why care now? It did make it balanced. But, yeah, it's just not something they had cared about in the past. Yeah, it looks like there's one additional white one here. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 7, 6, 6, 7. Actually, I counted that one. These count differently, but anyhow. Yeah, it does seem like the last several sets have had not balanced rares. So that's interesting. I suppose we can decide which colors in our set, do that when we're splitting hairs at the end if there are some designs we really want in the set. Yeah, I mean, we're not at that point yet. We have a lot of open rare slots still. I guess a lot fewer now if we're including all of those legendary creatures that you submitted. But we do still have several open ones, so it's not like a big problem right now. Also, looking at all these sets, it does remind me how white tends to have at least one legendary creature on its own, too, which makes sense since it is the legendary focused color. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays, just most colors seem to get them usually at either rare or mythic. Yeah. I don't know. They haven't done much in the way of actual legendary theme recently. Except, I guess, in AFR, they had a couple of cards that cared about green-red legendary creatures. But well, anyhow. So, I guess with all that, what do we want to work on next? I guess, yeah, we can probably go over the case files. Let me pull those up. We never came up with a better name for a fist wizard, but we can do that at some point. Okay, so breakdown I came up with was that each monocolor gets 3 each of mythic, rare, and uncommon. So 9 cards each. So 9 times 5 takes us to 45. The 10-card gold cycle takes us to 55, and that gives us room for 8 colorless cards, which I figure we'll probably have a decent amount of colorless cards that we want to do. So, yeah, seems like a good breakdown. So I went through the case files, and like I said, we had a lot of suggestions. Not a lot of them were what I would call home runs, which is not to say they were bad, but just, you know, I want to make sure that everything that we put in the case files is something that's like really awesome and or going to work well with some other stuff that's going on in the set. Suggestion for Epic or Encounter. Put a creature card you own from outside the game onto the battlefield. Okay, we would need to definitely up the cost if we're going to do that. As your wording is circumventing the cost, which I assume is intentional. So what cost do we think would be appropriate? Like 6 mana? I mean, that feels... Even that feels very strong. I'm also thinking like 6 mana at sorcery speed. And that would still be pretty good, because you could just put any like 8 mana, 9 mana creature into your deck, and then you're cheating on its mana cost, both in amount and color. You could cheat out like a black 8-drop for just say 6, mana in a green deck that has no ability to cast black. So I mean, it could be cool, but we would definitely need to make sure that we account for how powerful it would be, because I think that would be very, very good. You may put a green creature card from your hand into play. Okay, so this doesn't let you cheat on, colored mana, unless the card is also green. Definitely 6+ did not have a clue what felt right. Okay. Yeah, so that's a 5 mana instant. Interesting. Oh, I know why this is also a bit weaker, is that you have to have that creature card in your hand. So Epic or Encounter is taking it from your sideboard, so you can just choose not to play the card. Whereas with Dramatic Entrance, you're actually still paying 5 mana and 2 cards to get 1 into play, to cheat on mana a little bit. Not on color, just on amount. So I think Dramatic Entrance is significantly weaker. I feel like it might be tough to really do something like that if it allows you to just flash out an Emrakul from your sideboard. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking sorcery speed. Definitely. We don't have an Emrakul, even with the case files, we're not going to have an Emrakul level threat anywhere in the set. But still, it's a very high bar. There's a lot of room to be worse than Emrakul and still be overpowered to get for 6 mana. Mirrodin suggests putting a creature into play from your sideboard. I mean, even if it's an instant, you can only cast the creature at sorcery speed if it doesn't have flash. Cyber 5, no, we're talking about the suggestion that Mirrodin had... we're talking about the wording that Mirrodin suggested, which is that it puts it into play. So if the spell if Epic or Encounter has instant speed and just puts it right into play, you're not ever actually casting the creature, so it doesn't matter what speed that is. It definitely feels like it should be a sorcery. I think green splashy cards should be straightforward and big. Instant feels too tricky. Well, yeah, the thing about this being instant is it's not tricky by itself. It's only tricky in combination with a tricky creature, which could be green. But, you'd still have to, the creature, like Cyber5 was saying, would have to have flash in order for this to actually function at instant speed. So I guess a version of that would be sorcery. for green, green. Put a creature card. Choose a creature card from your sideboard. Sorry, from outside the game you own? What was my other wording? You may cast a creature card you own from outside the game. Yes. Okay. Choose a creature card you own from outside the game and put it onto the battlefield. Then exile this card. Mar says, does that mean we could do that for small creatures in white? Oh. Maybe responding to Cyber5, who is sarcastically suggesting that we bring all creatures from outside the game to the battlefield. Semi-sarcastically. I mean, there is that one Eldrazi that does it. That's true. I mean, that's in a set where you could theoretically reach 20 mana. I'm not sure that our set is that. But, we could try. If we want to slow it down because it's too powerful, we could have them enter tapped. Maybe XX4GG. So 8 mana to get your first one. 10 mana to get 2. $12 mana to get 3. That is a lot. Or maybe XX2GG. So then the first one is still the price of the original, which is 6 mana. This is a confusing mana cost, but we are all about doing weird stuff in this set. So then your first creature that you get to play for free, get to play from your sideboard, it would cost 6 mana. 2 creatures, 3 creatures. Seems more fair. It does still let you cheat on color of mana. God said the meek shall flood the board state. Well, it's certainly an interesting card now. Whereas before, I mean, it was interesting before. I feel like it's very interesting now. I don't know. Do we like this design? We got 3 2s in here. 2 green, 2 X, and 2. Okay, I think From Beyond is already a card name, but if it's not, I'm going to use it. It is, okay. I'm fine if it stays, I guess, but we'll have to see what other designs flow in. I don't know. It's cool. It's interesting. And it's weird, which I do kind of like for this set. So we'll have to play test it and see. All right, so, oops, where is, There we go. Case files. Stop it. I'm just trying to grab the case files and bring them out. Okay. I think... Here we go. So, here's what we have in the case files so far that I felt was definitely keepable. I guess I need to bring this one out a little bit more because she's two-sided. So, obviously, our Planeswalker character, who has been captured by the organization, they basically use her abilities, try and figure out how to manufacture their own Planeswalker Spark, and in doing so, they remove hers, and she's just left as a creature. So, this is one. We have the Ephemeral Guardian that I believe it was Gunblade suggested, which is basically like a guardian angel is the idea. It's the flavor here. It is effectively, you mutate all of like these abilities onto a creature at instant speed. So, kind of cool. We have Minimorph. So it's a, like this is a pretty unobtrusive design, but it's cool. It's a 3/4 lifelink for 4. Or you can Minimorph it, which means play it as a 2/2 for 3, and then flip it up for a single white and put a -1/-1 counter on it. So it's shrinking, and then that'll make it just like a 2/3 lifelink instead of a 3/4. So I kind of like it. I'm really interested in having a couple of abilities that are like new but keyworded. And this is a riff on an old keyword, basically the opposite of Megamorph, but still pretty cool. We've got Third Eye, which is our Splice onto Creature card. It's an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And you can splice it onto any creature that you play for 3 mana, or you can splice it onto a mutant for a single blue mana. So in that way, like it works with any creature-based deck, but it works especially well with mutant decks, as each one is just going to draw you an additional card if you can pay the mana. So this is one of the few reasons that we have to actually play a mutants deck, which is cool. We have Spell Parasite, which is one we designed relatively recently. This was Cyber 5's idea. You can basically have it be a copy of any other spell that you've played this turn. It can copy a creature, it can copy a instant or a sorcery or an enchantment, anything you've played this turn. Notably, if you do that, its cost will overwrite this. So you're casting it still for its original cost. Could maybe make it at least 1 and a blue to cast for that enchantment, just to cycle. Yes, we have on the note that it could have a mana cost. However, we are planning to have a cycle of of cards without an actual way to play them, without a mana cost in their upper right corner. So we have a cycle of those, or that's the goal. We're not there yet. So this could be part of that cycle, or yeah, you could just cycle it if we give it a 1 and a blue, I believe is the cost that we had on it before. We didn't end up finishing that cycle when we did go to design it, but the other ones that we came up with were the... If it's a cycle, then I guess we can see where it goes. Yeah, we could come up with a different blue one. Our red one is the Swarm of Mecha Ants. It's a 1/1. Can't be played. It has Dash for 1 and a red, and Storm. So when you cast it, you'll cast it for 1 and a red. You'll create a copy of the spell for each other spell that was cast before it this turn. They'll all come in, 1/1s with haste. You can attack with them all, and then they'll all bounce back to your hand at end of turn. So, I'm pretty happy with this design, although it's like 90% reminder text, which is interesting. So, this is not red flagged. At least, not for too much text. It's definitely confusing. And our green one that we ended up with is actually a little similar to it. So, oh, it's not in here right now. I haven't moved it in. I mean, Throes of Chaos exists. Oh yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah, Throes of Chaos is also 90% flavor text, so fair point. This one has, like, it's a bit more confusing, though. Like, we definitely had a lengthy discussion about whether the Storm copies would be dashed. And I think the agreed upon answer is yes, they would be dashed. So they will have haste and return to your hand at end of turn. But yes, Throes of Chaos is a good, similar example. So yeah, we really only have the possibly blue one in the cycle. Definitely this red one. And then a green one that I'm personally not like a huge fan of, but I haven't brought it in yet. So then we also have, the Spell Parasite, this Portal to Yesterday, which is an extra turn spell, but you can suspend it, and while it's suspended, it basically sends one of your things to yesterday every turn until you actually cast the Portal to Yesterday. This is one that we want a Rat King because it's a fun cryptid that will go well with our rat sub-theme. People don't seem super hyped about this iteration of it, mostly because it can meld with a token, which is fair. But we still want a version of it, so it's still in here, even though it won't stay in that form. I put in this Nightfall Coronet. We don't need it, but it is like a champion and aura effect, which is kind of cool, because it is a clear reference to Daybreak Coronet. So it's kind of a cool design. I'm not sure if it actually does need to stay in because it doesn't really go with exactly what we're doing, but it's a cool design, so there's a line there. But we do definitely want our Tribal Rat Planeswalker. Big fan of this guy. This is our Relentless Rats type card. You can have any number of copies of him. Of it, really. Each player loses... You can neg it once to have each player lose 1 life, but the main draw is -3 to get a Rat Colony token. And since this is a rat, it will pump it, so that'll be effectively a 3/1 for as long as your Planeswalker remains on the field. It is also a Planeswalker that is not legendary and has no Planeswalker subtype. Although I guess Arathia has kind of Planeswalked, so maybe this can serve as both a creature type and a Planeswalker type. Am I thinking for one card in this set, what about another Form of the Blank card? That sounds like a pretty sweet idea. I think we should definitely do that. Shoot, we could design that now. So the question then is, what form? They've done Dragon. And they've done, Squirrel? Yes, they've done Squirrel and Dinosaur. So, they tend to be very popular, so I think it would be a good idea. We just need a good form to play off of. Yeah, and I think we should stay away from red, since the only 2 black border ones are red. A science experiment to make Rat Colony gone wrong? That's amazing. Oh, yeah. This is maybe my favorite card in the set that we've designed. It is very, very cool. And also, like, the support cards that we've made for it, I'm also a big fan of. It all, like, works together really well. I'm great. So there's 3 forms right now. Form of the Dinosaur. For 6 mana, enchantment makes your life total 15. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you fight target creature an opponent controls. You must fight target creature. Basically, your life total. It deals 15. Actually, you're always dealing 15 damage. but then that creature deals damage equal to its power to you. So eventually, you're going to take lethal damage. Form of the Dragon. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get to deal 5 damage to a creature or player. At the end of each turn, not just yours, but each turn, your life total becomes 5. Because that's around the average toughness of a dragon. And then creatures without flying cannot attack you. So pretty hard to use well, because you're going to 5 life each time, but you do get to kill a creature every turn. You are immune to creatures without flying. And then Form of the Squirrel is a single green mana. As it comes into play, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. You lose the game when it leaves play. Creatures can't attack you. You can't be the target of spells or abilities, and you can't play spells. So you just become this meek 1/1 that can't do anything. You can't be attacked, so you can't lose the game until they find a way to kill your squirrel. Or Form of the Hydra, maybe splitting yourself into more players over time. Oh my. Oh, I see. Wind and Wave suggested, can we make a Fire Penguin card? Or, yeah. Okay, so this is a different idea. We could make a Fire Penguin Phoenix, but for now we are going to focus on the form of the card. Unless you're talking about a form of the Fire Penguin, which is, I don't think, super resonant. So just for the sake of diversity, we probably want a black, white, or blue form. Or green, I forgot about the squirrel's status. Yeah, we could probably do anything but red. And yeah, iconic creatures tend to be the way to go, I think, because if you want a form of the something, you want the thing that you're taking the form of to really resonate. So green could be good because it's the only one whose iconic doesn't fly. Because we don't just want to repeat the creatures without flying can't attack you. Disfigured form. Yeah. So the hard thing about these cards is you're trying to basically basically give yourself the properties that a specific creature type in the game has. Mutant, maybe? Interesting. Mutant is not a bad idea. Let's, Okay, so we've got, as a suggestion, we have Mutant, we have Hydra, we have Form of the Fibblethip, which could just be like Homunculus. Form of the Hydra. You gain a teammate and become that teammate. Form of the Planeswalker. Yeah, if you become a Planeswalker, you can be attacked. A form of a specific Planeswalker. You could flavorfully become an undercover somehow. Just 2v1 headed giant, your opponent, like Wedge did to Cameron at the unstable pre-release. Yeah. Better Than One is a, like, ridiculously broken card. It is so strong. Because you're drawing 2 cards per turn. Your team is. Any other ideas? I mean, obviously there's the Iconics, Sphinx. In this set, it's Archon and, like, Phoenix. I guess we don't want to do red, though, so we can delete Phoenix. Worm. With the Charizard on top of it. No, thank you. Form of the Rat. Form of the rat. You may include any number of people named. Insert your name here in your team. Form of the, yes, demon and angel. Excellent. Form of target creature. Okay, so what do we think is going to be the most resonant in this set? Which one would it be cool and flavorful for you as the player to be able to turn into? Form of the sliver. I kind of like the idea of form of the sliver. I don't know if it goes as well in this set, as we don't have any other slivers, and the whole point is that you need a bunch of them. Form of the fire penguin. I think we did that. Well, we didn't. Curse of the Fire Penguin is a card. And it does turn you into a fire penguin. Well, I guess it turns a creature into a fire penguin. Form of the cat. Get 9 emblems with, if you would lose the game, instead exile this emblem and your life total becomes 1. I don't know why I typed the entire thing for those. Sliver, cat. I will say that is kind of awesome, but they did just print a card, oops, kind of like that, which was 9 lives. Yeah, so I guess you could argue that this is a form of the cat card, even though it's it doesn't have that. Do Lich-like cards count as form of 2? Kind of. I don't see why not, honestly. Lich is, what is it, Embrace? No, Lich is something. Mastery. Oops. Kind of is. So even though it doesn't have the... What about a Necropotence reprint? I don't see why that's necessary. Was it just the triple black that made you think of that? Okay. Form of the goblin. If you may sacrifice a goblin, you may sacrifice yourself instead. I don't know that that's a good plan. It could be like when it enters the battlefield, you create 1/1 goblins equal to your number, equal to your life total. And then when they're all dead, you lose, but you don't lose the game for other things. What about a totem armor card? We could put that on the to-do list. Totem armor. Excellent. Okay, so for now, I think the most promising forms are like Hydra, Rat. I think Cat is one of the most promising, except that I do believe that 9 lives just kind of counts. Maybe Mutant? If we could find a way to like give all of your things choices, that would be awesome. Sliver does seem fun. It just, I don't think, like, wouldn't it require you to have a bunch of other slivers, which we don't have in the set? Like, I'm all for doing weird stuff, but I do want our weird stuff to be playable. Oh, Defiantmar says, enchant yourself while you have a form active, and then your totem armor would protect you in case somebody tries to destroy you. Form of the mutant. On your turn, you get +1/+1. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, I mean, if it's form of the mutant, it could just be like, as it enters the battlefield, choose one, and then you get like... it might be too much to have like 2 different form of cards on one, but if we could find a way to make the mutant one work, that would be cool. Creatures you control are slivers in addition to their other types. Other slivers you control have all abilities this card has. All right, ooze. We have ooze as a suggestion. Okay, that's a reasonable suggestion for Hydra. Form of the Hydra. X in a green. Enchantment. This form of the Hydra enters the battlefield. Your life total becomes X. At the end of each turn, you gain twice the amount of life you lost this turn. That is pretty cool. So then your opponent they just have to build up a big enough board state that they can definitely kill you in one swing. But of course, it gets easier because you're limited by the amount of mana you can put into this. You know, if you only have 6 mana when you play this, then your life total's 5 to start with. And so then it's easier to kill you in one swing if you're a 5. Form of the whale. Your life total becomes the size of your wallet. Form of the whale. Pay $300. Win the game. Or pay $300. Upgrade this card. And it's just like you replace the form of the whale with like a foil version. But then there's a like a borderless foil version, so then you could do that. But then there's like borderless etched foil version, so then you can like replace it with that. So you just have to go through all these steps of paying a bunch of money to upgrade your card a bunch of times. And then there's the secret lair. Oh yes, of course, limited time only, and a borderless etched foil super art. Indeed. I think this might be slightly better than you gain 2 life for each life you lost this turn. It's confusing either way. Like, not super confusing. Invested players will get it. Casual players might have a bit of trouble figuring it out. But I don't know, this is a pretty cool form. I'm totally joking about this ability because it's very silly, and one of the main ways to beat this card is to actually be able to destroy it. So we don't actually want to do that. But because if you can't build up a big enough board to just kill them in one swing, you have to kill this card. So we can't give it a form of protection. because you can't just expect that everybody will be able to do that. I guess another way to do it is by milling the opponent out, which is reasonable. But I was just trying to think of another ability to tack on, because the other form of cards tend to do a lot more. What about when it leaves the battlefield, you lose the game? I think you've already kind of done that to yourself if you set your life total to 6 or 7, and then you lose the card that pays you off for having that. What do these other form cards do? This, well, Form of the Dinosaur only has 2 effects. I guess, is there anything else intrinsic to a Hydra that we could put on this? I feel like this is actually kind of fine as is. But if we could think of anything else. Okay, well, this seems good. Now, I guess the question that we do need to ask ourselves is, does this need to go in the case files, or does it make sense enough in the main set? Could be either or. So in the case files, we do already have the Spreading Hydra, which is the card that we talked about last time that has monstrosity and then turns all of your other creatures into copies of it for the turn. So we already have like a card that's flavored as basically contagious Hydraness, which is kind of the same flavor as Form of the Hydra. Or that's definitely how this would be flavored if it were in the case file. Honestly, kind of like the Form of More, this one can be themed as a different creature type. True. Although, I did really like the type of the Hydra that just sprouts its new heads from nearby creatures instead of from its own body. That was kind of awesome. Maybe make it like a plant or fungus parasite. Yeah, we could potentially do that. Let's see. Well, we could reflavor it later as needed, but this works pretty well. Cool. So, players love Form of cards. Let's give them what they want. So, cool. That's a great design. I can put it in the... Actually, this should not take up the first slot. Yeah. Seems good. Oops. No. Not 31, just... There we go. Okay, and then we also have... Now I'm also imagining an unset being like Form of Mark Rosewater. You could just design whatever card you want. All right, so Fist Wizard is obviously not the name of this card, but the idea is that it's punching people in the face. Why, you say? Because it works with a card that we have in the main set, which is Mass Bloodlust, which is pretty cool. So it's whenever enchanted creature deals damage to a player, you get to create a copy of this attached to target creature. So basically it works well with that, which, like, we don't need to have Mass Bloodlust in the set. It's a flex slot. I didn't write that down apparently, but it is, because it doesn't like work with any of our themes specifically, but it is just kind of a cool card that we liked, and we wanted to We wanted to give it some pingers, and this was one that seemed like it could be pretty good. So basic idea is that it just, grows with your spells and punches the opponent in the face. But, and then we had the Burrowing Maw, which was, we both wanted to make sure that in our case files we had some different morph variants, so that you can confuse your opponent. They'll think that you're playing an undercover spell, and then, I turn it face up at instant speed. It's a morph creature. So we thought that would play really, in a very fun way. And then the morph cost on this one is giving your opponent 4 1/1s, because that works well with another red rare, which is Vaporize. Vaporize deals X damage to each creature. If a creature would be dealt excess damage, that damage gets passed on to the controller. So basically you want to be able to give your opponent a lot of small creatures, and that is what Burrowing Maw does, while also being just a morph creature. So we're pretty dead set on this combo staying, but the punchy one we could cut if we wanted. Bear Pack is just a very simple replicate card. It is literally a bear, 2/2 for 2, with replicate. So you can make any number of bears when you cast this spell, as long as you have 2 mana for each 2/2. So it's really just taking the replicate in the next natural direction, which is replicating non-instant or sorcery spells. So pretty fun design, pretty simple. The multi-bear from Gravity Falls. And then we have Groupthink. It's like multi-kicker, but bear. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of Gnarlid Pack the whole time I was looking at this earlier. So clearly, you're getting a lot more beef out of the replicate. But they're all on separate creatures, so having a bunch of 2/2s could be worse than having just like 1 4/4. In general, this multi-bear card would be better than Gnarlid Pack, but it dies to board wipes too. Yeah. Gnarlid Pack would be a little bit less vulnerable to like damage-based board wipes, but yeah. So our card is generally better, but I think it's still a fine card, power-wise. Then we had, Groupthink is 5 mana. It's our blue-black, like, sort of alternate build around, which is basically have a bunch of the same creature in your deck. Creatures, because you get to choose a creature name, and then creatures with the chosen name have tap, target player mills 3 cards. So we have this working with the rats in the set, because there's a bunch of like black rat horror creature tokens. So we put rat horror as one of the commons in the set. It's our only vanilla. It's just a 2/1 for 2. But that way it is a creature, so you can choose that name, and then all of your rat horror tokens can tap to mill somebody. I'm also thinking of a 0 mana equipment with equip 0 and nothing else. I mean, yeah. I've had a few ideas like that, but it's like, I do want these cards to actually be usable in some manner. And then, yeah, I remember someone suggested last time that we needed a Mothman, and I forgot that we'd already had a Mothman designed. So this is our black-red rare alternate build-around, which was 4/3 for 5 flying. When it attacks, surveil 2, then reveal the top card of your library. Each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a type with the revealed card. So this was like sort of a build-around theme, dude. And then you can make it trigger immediately by dashing it, which also helps it dodge sorcery speed removal. And lastly is Reality Tear. Taps to make you lose a life, and it untaps to add 1 mana of any color. Activate this ability only once each turn. So it's a City of Brass type of deal, but it works really well with stuff like Urban Utopia. We have one in our main set. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Urban Redevelopment. So then if you put Urban Redevelopment on Reality Tear, you could have 5 mana off that single land. It also essentially untaps each turn, too. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you could use it to get mana on the opponent's turn, as well as your own turn. I see what you're saying. So it's a City of Brass that actually provides 1 mana on your turn and 1 mana on each opponent's turn. That's actually brutally powerful in Commander formats. So we might have to rebuild this card. You could just say, and only on your turn. But then you can't use it to play instance. I feel like that would be a fair trade-off given what it can do anyways. That's fair. Alternatively, when it becomes untapped, create a treasure token. Oops. So then you can, instead of being able to untap it at will, it's just on your upkeep. So it's entering tapped. And then on your upkeep, well, untap, you get a treasure token that you can then use whenever. Kind of goes against what we were planning with a land with the untap symbol, though. It does. Because the idea was that the land has the untap symbol. But it's still, I mean, it's a potential redesign. So if we don't like it, that's fine. It does still work with the urban redevelopment, although it doesn't double work, but it's cool in that it gives you 2 mana to tap it instead of losing a life, and then a mana when it untaps. So if we don't like it, that's fine, but it was a reasonable alternative. So if we like this better, that is fine. Okay, and then that's all the cards from the case files that I thought were like definitely worth including. Which takes us up to, we can leave a note to try and improve this later too. That takes us up to 18 cards out of 63. We do have a lot more designs, but I'm not sure how I'm feeling about them. So, I am pretty happy with this form of the Hydra we just added on. Let's see, this will have to be like rare black. Oh, what are we at? 2? There we go. Why does Reality Terror have to be on your turn? Just curious. So we just added this. It was because if it says activate this ability only once each turn, you can activate it on your opponent's turn as well. So you can basically tap it for mana once on your turn and once on your opponent's turn for 2 mana per cycle, which is very good in a land. It's hard to break in Limited, but in Constructed, it would be quite good. And then once you get into Commander, it's providing 4 mana per turn cycle. You are still losing a bunch of life to do it, so there's that, but I think people would probably take that trade-off for the powerful things they could do with it. So that's why we replaced it with end only on your turn, so that way it's only giving you 1 mana per turn cycle. Or how about this? Could we just put it up there? If you find another way to tap it, you could still get infinite mana. Like Urban Redevelopment on this would still give you infinite mana. So we maybe still need a modifier on here, like activate this ability only once each turn. And then we could just make this one activate this ability only on your turn. So that way, you could tap it on your turn, and then you could untap it on any one player's turn to get mana back. It is a very interesting card. I think if you're looking at it without context of the rest of the set, you might look at this card and think it's a pretty poor design. Also, another thing to think about, we might have a field day with Cleave now, too. Oh, that's a good point. We probably just want one card where we go crazy with Cleave. I'm also thinking, what about a non-legendary partner card with one or both not being creatures? It would feel a little odd putting a partner card into like a premier level set. But I do like the idea of being able to partner, like have like a non-legendary or non-creature card as your commander. Like I've often thought, like it'd be cool if I could have this instant as my commander or something. Maybe we can finally have Vindicate with Destroy Target Permanent after all these years. I mean, that's a good one, but also, why would you ever cleave it? I guess you could cleave it just to destroy a spirit or an illusion with the illusion ability. Something with the illusion ability. Target permanent. Oh, it got targeted with the spell or ability. So, these are the case files that we have. I'm pretty happy with the stuff like Reality Tear and the Burrowing Maw and this guy. I like that they have like specific cards in the main set that they combo with, but they're still fine on their own. So like, I want to have that cross synergy. This guy too there's a bunch of rats in the main set that dude works with. So, but then we can also just have fun stuff that works by itself, which is Form of the Hydra. Although if we could find some way to like, oh yeah, black has some ways to make you lose life and draw cards. Well, you can use that to gain more life. So that's actually funny because this is turning life loss into life gain. And then we have the black demon who turns life gain into life loss. If you have both of them out, though, no, you're just getting extra life loss. So you really don't want to combo those two. At the end of each turn, you gain twice the amount of life you lost this turn, which means you lose twice the amount of life you lost this turn. So it's just life stonks. Yes. Your life stonks will go down in the short term, but you're hoping to get those diamond hands to the moon before too long. Okay, well, believe it or not, we are coming in on about 3 hours on stream. So, we got about 10 minutes left. Is there anything else that people want to work on before we call it a night? For the week, because we will not be meeting on Thursday, for it is Thanksgiving. Still probably going to be thinking more about that potential Cleave idea for what could be done with it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff that people were doing with Cleave on Custom Magic, but we also want to make sure that it's, like, most of that stuff was, never actually a printable card. So we want to make sure that what we're doing is pretty sweet. I mean, I guess we could go over some of the other cards from the case files that I was on the fence about. Like, that are okay, but I'm not sure if they're really worth a slot. Some of them I just deleted. Some of them I just moved to cuts because I thought they're fine designs, but maybe not for this set. I did mention the idea of a pair of non-legendary creatures with one or both not being creatures. Yes, and I responded, which was that I'm not sure that it makes sense to have partner cards. Well, let me see. Let me double check what partner does. Because it would let you tutor up one or the other. You can have, so just plain old, right, it's partner with that lets you tutor up the other. So just plain partner just lets you have both of them as commanders. So that feels weird to put into a premier set. It's not a commander set. I mean, like the partner with non-legendary cards, like in Battle Bond. Okay, so you did mean partner with. Okay, that would make more sense since we can actually use that. And this is actually the ability that I was talking about on the last stream, which is that I knew that they had done an ability relatively recently where they didn't actually spell out the entirety of the text on the card, which is partner with. but on a legendary creature. So it says, when this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Regna into their hand from their library, then shuffle. It does not include that you may have, it does not include the actual partner text, which is you may have both as commanders if one is. So I'm pretty sure that's what I was thinking of. But yes, okay, we could do partner with. That would be cool. I'm not sure how we would be able to make sure that you get both in the same pack. Maybe we don't. Maybe they're both cards that you just have to find. But it would be really hard. It would be theoretically more hard to find both of them if they're both like in the case files, since that's only 1 out of 14 cards. So I like the idea of partner with. It might be a little hard to make work. Partner with and meld, maybe. Oh, well, we do want a meld card. Maybe make the mana ramp creature have partner with forest to let them tutor a forest. Partnering with a land is actually not a bad idea. Just conjure the partner? No. But then do all forests retroactively have partner with it? I don't believe so. Even though they have done all partner withs in pairs, whereas both cards in the partnership have partner with the other, I don't believe that you would have to do it that way. You could have one card partner with the other, but not vice versa. One-way partnership? Maybe it's unrequited love. You just had a horrible idea for a case file. Lay it on me. Those forests are always just so hard to get. Yeah, I mean, you maybe don't want to tutor up a forest, but, it's a start. It could be maybe a card that makes you want as many forests as possible. So then you don't care that you already have a few. Unrequited love would be a sorcery that partners with a creature. All right. And that creature is itself partnered with something else. That's really fun. That's a pretty fun idea. Just have an entire chain of sorcery, creature, enchantment, artifact. Oh my gosh. Or it could be a 3-creature cycle where one partners with the other and one partners with the other and one partners with the other, and it's just like a love triangle. Because I'm not sure how we would flavorfully pair sorcery with a creature and the creature with an enchantment, but we could try and figure it out. We don't need another Steamflogger Boss's limo. Makes me think of that format. Oathbreaker, was it, with the signature spells? Yeah. I never played it, but signature spells do sound pretty awesome. I would be on board. Okay. Well, I guess we'll probably call it there, and then also Centaur with horsemanship too. Creature C can have partner with creature A and partner with creature B. Oh, okay. Yeah, so if we wanted to do it the love triangle way, where one person could go with either one, you could just give it partner with two different things, and then the other things both have partner with that one. Or, yeah, I also like the idea of the partner chain, where it's like literally going in a circle. Mirrodin suggests a king or something with his legendary equipment and legendary spell. Not sure why a love triangle would be in the case file, though. Well, I don't know, but we could find a flavor for it. Maybe their love has some magical effect that causes problems for the world at large. But I think we just want to come up with some sweet designs, see if they fit. Or it's a monster love triangle. Yeah, it could literally just be like, Nessie is in love with Sasquatch, but oh no, the Yeti also, the Abominable Snowman also loves the Sasquatch. Which one will the Sasquatch choose? Yeah, because they're all just watching 90s sitcoms. Okay, well, that sounds like we got a lot of fun partner ideas. So I guess next time, let's just try and bring some... Oh, that's Twilight. I mean... Okay, good point. But hold on, these are cryptids, not werewolves and vampires and teenage girls. Think more like Monster Seeking Monster from Jackbox. We have to make a better love story than Twilight. That's okay. You know what? I bet I could search. I bet I could find something in our set file that already is a better love story than Twilight. I've seen too much anime teenage girls are cryptids. Skin Snagger will kill you and take your face. But it's still a better love story than Twilight. Wait, make a legendary creature that has partner with, insert its own name here, and a grandeur ability? Oh my goodness, that's very cool. So we just need to have a set completely dedicated to fun partner with shenanigans. Okay. Oh yeah, Cornelius Ward is in love with himself, or at least he is everyone. So, okay, man, we got a lot of interesting ideas for partner. So I guess that's what we'll do for next time, is we'll start by coming back with all of our partner ideas. Definitely feel free to post them in the Discord, and we can talk about them, because it's going to be a week until I stream again, so that's a long break. So if we want to discuss stuff in Discord, we sure can. But for today, we, let's see. We got some legendary creatures in here. And we went over the case files that I sort of sifted through on my own time earlier today. And I don't know that we got that much done today, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it, had some fun. I really, really like a lot of the case files that we have. I just want to make sure that everyone that we have is so good as the ones that we have now. So I'm really enjoying trying to come up with the good stuff that's like really interesting, but also to the point. And yeah, as always, this is maybe my favorite card in the set. So thank you all so much, as always, for hanging out and coming up with some great ideas. And I hope to see you all next week. But for this week, have a great Thanksgiving if that's something that you celebrate. And if not, well, maybe eat some good food anyway. So have a good one.